on mute. Is on mute. Is on mute.
Stream Deck?
Stream Deck was working.
Welcome to Chicago? Oh, come on.
Stream Deck was working before.
Bruh. I hate this thing so much. Stream Deck?
Mr. Clinton.
Okay. Works.
Are
Easy
we
repair?
are we streaming?
Yeah.
Hopefully an easy repair. Start with cat.
Make Mr. Clinton mad.
Always start with.
What did you do to make him mad before?
You just stop petting him.
Really?
That's all you have to do is stop petting him and he gets angry.
Alright.
Mr. Clinton? Hi.
So you stop petting him, and the moment you stop petting him, he yells at you.
Usually.
Why is he so mad all the time? Why are you always so freaking mad? Why are you such a cunt? Why are you such a cunt, Mr. Clinton? Be nice. Be nice to people. Good boy. Give a nice meow. Give a...
No.
He always gives a...
Yes. He looked at you funny when you did that.
You can zoom in on the chat in the OBS, but you can on this. Internet Explorer. So,
Oh, okay. That's good.
Mr. Clinton hates MacBooks. True. The cat is just what the doctor ordered. Clinton has his own throne to watch over you from nice. Yay, border pit. What's wrong with that?
What's wrong with this? It's covered in cat hair now. So, hi everybody. What was I going to do? Oh yeah, repair a MacBook. So, I wanted to take you through like the whole process here of repairing a MacBook with Rossmann Repair Group. So, say you own a MacBook. Sorry for you. Your MacBook stops working. This one specifically. So, say you have a MacBook and you dropped your charger down the stairs. Charger doesn't work anymore. Go to Apple or go to Best Buy or go somewhere to buy a MacBook charger, and they want $80+ to replace your charger. Doesn't matter what model you have, doesn't matter how old it is, they're all $80 for the charger. You go on eBay and you see somebody selling a charger for $20. I'm going to buy the $20 charger, okay. Plug in the $20 charger to this, lasts a couple weeks or something, and then stops working. MacBook just turns off one day, doesn't turn on ever again. So now you call us. Hey, my MacBook's not working. We're going to tell you to go to the website. You fill out a form, giving us all your information, letting us know where it's coming from, who you are. Box this laptop up, send it on to us. When we get it, we send you an email letting you know that we got your machine. It's here. It's in the intake process. A day or two later, we're going to open up your machine. We're going to figure out what roughly is wrong with it. We're not going to diagnose it. We're just going to triage it, see what's wrong with it, what it could possibly be, and we're going to send you an email of what it could possibly be, how much it's going to cost to fix, and what the turnaround time is going to look like for it. So this one looks like it's going to be a logic board repair. So $425 for this is 2017-1707. So $425 for the logic board repair, and we wait for you to approve the money. Once you approve the money, we will open up your machine and begin work on it. And this is the point we're at now. We're going to begin work on the laptop. So here we have... Why does that look funny? Weird. Okay. Never mind. So here we have a 1707 MacBook Pro. And first thing I'm going to do is plug in the charger. I'm going to plug in the charger and see with a amp meter here, and we're going to see what it takes. So I plug in the amp meter, and I'm taking 5 volts, 0 amps. Check another port. 5 volts, 0 amps. And it's not doing anything else. It doesn't turn off. I'd have no amperage usage whatsoever. So yeah. Chances are all 4 ports are going to do that all 8 ways once you see 2 of them doing the same thing. 5 volt 0. So USB-C, I say all 4 ports all 8 ways. So USB-C is different whether you're this way or you're this way plugged into it. So when you're done with the repair and you're cleaning up and making sure everything works, you have to try charging this way, then unplug your charger, turn it upside down, and plug it in again and see if it still charges. You have to do that for all 4 ports across the machine. That's checking it. I have 5 volt 0 in one direction. It's going to be 5 volt 0 in the other direction. I just know that from experience. So now we're going to open it up. I'm going to take my screwdriver with the Pentalobe 4. Now, opening a MacBook. Please get the right screwdrivers and do not ever pry your back panel off. I will show you this as I go. This is a good tutorial. This is a good cut. We'll make a short video out of this or something. Hi, this is how you open a MacBook. This is true from 2016 all the way up until now. Follow this. So we take our Pentalobe 4 screwdriver. We'll take out all the screws from the bottom, keeping note, especially if you're not used to this, which screws went where. This screw is longer than these screws on this MacBook. Some of them have 3 different sizes. These will be really short. These up here will be really short. These will be medium, and these down here will be really long. So just take note of where they are so you put them back in the right spot. So these 2 bottom ones are the long ones. These are they're not really short on this MacBook. These are medium length. But they don't have any blank unthreaded shoulder like the other ones do. Now the next thing we have to do is take the back plate off. Now the old MacBooks, this used to be easy. Just pull the back plate off. Can't do that anymore. So there's a couple things you could do here. You can take a big suction cup and stick it on this and pop it back, because there's some metal clips that are located right here and right here that are holding this in. All they are pop clips. So all we need to do is pull it up off the pop clips. Do not put a screwdriver into here. Do not pry this open with a screwdriver. There is no reason ever to pry this open with a screwdriver. So I'm going to just stick 1 fingernail in here. Then that allows me to get a couple fingernails in there, and I will pull up, pop. Then this is all open. I will slide over here, pop. And now we need to pull. Now we got the pop clips off. Now there's a sliding clip over here. These 2 areas have these slide-in fingers that have clipped on to some aluminum in here. So now we need to pull that way while pushing the MacBook that way. So I'm going to lift up here with my fingers. I'm going to put some fingers here. So I have my pointer fingers here. The rest of my fingers are inside the case. I'm going to grip it and push. Takes a lot of hand strength, actually. There's an actual special jig for Apple that you're supposed to put this whole thing into that reaches in here with plastic grippers and stuff and pushes it out for you. If you don't lose any knuckle skin, you did a good job. So now we have our MacBook open. So now we look around. First thing we do is look around. One of the things I do is I like to look at the bottom case. If something burnt in here, you might not see it up against the black board right away, but you will see a discoloration or a smoke mark or something like that on this panel here. So I don't see anything. I just see a normal amount of dust. It's a pretty clean MacBook. It's just a normal amount of regular dust. This one's been pretty good taken care of for 2017. This looks okay. So now we're going to do some testing. So the first thing we have to test for, we're going to plug it in. And then my multimeter showing voltage. I'm going to test, so as soon as DC's coming into this, and it splits off into two areas. Two power rails are created almost immediately. That's PP bus G3 hot, which the DC in goes right to power PP bus G3 hot, and it goes to PP3V3 G3 hot, or it's a couple different things in the newer ones, G3S, whatever else. But so DC in comes in and then it splits off into two areas, PP bus G3 hot, PP3V3. So that's the two we need to check for right away. So I'm going to check for PP bus G3 hot, and I have nothing. I have 12 millivolts. So that's 12 millionths of a volt. That's definitely not there. And I will check for 3v3 G3 hot, which is right here. And I have 11, 14 millivolts, 17 millivolts. Yeah, that is not there. This camera angle, some of the battery cells expanding? No, they are not actually. You're seeing some weird... Yeah, none of the battery cells are expanding. This battery looks in okay condition. Yeah, you're just seeing some weird reflections from the lights. Okay, so no PP bus, no PP3V3. The next thing to try is PPDCN to make sure PPDCN is getting through our CD3215 into the circuits to create it. So on this side of the board, I'm not sure where PPDCN is. I think it's over here, but let's go to the schematic and we'll take a look at that. Schematic. So this is our schematic and board view. So I'm looking at the board view. I do a lot of my troubleshooting through the board view. You don't have to go to the schematic that often. So let's see. I want PPDC in. So I kind of know where it is, but let's show you how to find it. So we're going to go, I think Lewis has it set to Control F, yes. And we're going to go PPDC in, PPDC in G3 hot, click on that, click on search. And we have DC in right here. Okay, so we have this cutout in the board. This is the battery connector, so let's come back to the overhead view. So this is the board, this is the battery connector under here. This is that cutout that we saw where the board goes like that, so that means PPDCN is right around in here. Let's see, these are the two fuses, good caps, they're right under here. That's all PPDCN. So let's make sure PPDCN is getting farther than the CD3215 and getting over here. So which one? It's the top ones of these. And we have 5.17 volts, which is what our amp meter on the USB-C port is saying. So we have PPDCN coming into the board. It is making it all the way into the board and powering things, but we still have no power on anything. So now we're going to take the board out of the machine and do some more investigating. So now I'll change my screwdriver bit to, what do we start with? We're going to start with the T3. So this is going to be all of the, well, first let me disconnect the battery. Even though we don't have anything on the battery, always disconnect the battery before you start doing anything. And on all these new ones, all you have to do is disconnect these this cable here. You don't have to unscrew the connector because this cable here is going to operate a MOSFET that's on the battery board. So if the battery's not malfunctioning As soon as I disconnect this, the battery is no longer connected to the system. So now we're just going to go through and remove all of the caps and covers and protectors and everything. So this is a hinge protector, goes over the board a little bit. I like to remove it. This is a touch bar connector cover. Remove that one. This is the charge port connector. It doesn't come off. Not on this model. Some of the other models, this one's glued onto the charge port. It's the other touch bar connector. And then we have a board screw that's T3. I'll come down here to the LCD cable. I'll come up here, this is the keyboard connector. This is the trackpad connector. As you can see, I have a magnet on my screwdriver. All the screws go onto the magnet. We'll go over identifying the screws as we put it back together, if this stream gets to that point. Hopefully this will be a pretty easy fix, and I'll have this back together right on stream. This is the other hinge cover. And this connector cap covers the audio jack connector, the headphone port connector, and the power button. So that's all the teeth. Oh, I missed one. Another T3 board screw. Now we will switch to T5. And now we're going to take out most of the board screws. All the board screws are the same except for that one right there. That one's longer than all the other T5 board screws. So make sure you put the long one back there. Not sure why that's the long one. Not sure why this corner needs more clamping force than anything else, but I'll abide by it. Take off the battery connector here. And then we change to T8. The last two screws, T8 down here, holding the ends of the heatsink. And this one here has a screw hole down the middle of it because the connector cap's screwed into it. So make sure that goes in the right spot when you put it back. So now we're going to disconnect all the connectors. So I just work from one side to the other. So touch bar, charging cable, microphone, touch bar, speaker, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, or vice versa, screen, keyboard, trackpad, speaker, headphone port, power button, fingerprint reader too, power button, and charge port. Okay, I think that's everything. So now I'm going to lift up gently on this corner and I use a tool very gently, and as soon as I can get my finger on it, tool's out of here, hands only. Then I'm going to lightly wiggle it while moving all the connectors out of the way. So the rubbers are a little stuck here, they're glued on. And you just keep wiggling it on your way out gently, and that will let you feel if you forgot a connector. So you don't rip a connector off the board or something. If you do a gentle wiggle, it'll reveal something that you forgot. There you go, that's out. Now we can take a look at just the board. Oh, yeah, another thing. Same as the back cover. In case something might be burnt out on this, sometimes it's not easy to find on the board, so look at this. Look in here. You'll see like a burnt mark here, or corrosion here. You'll see green stuff from corrosion, or this is just a sticker that's on the back of the keyboard. It might wrinkle up if something burns on it, burns on the board on the other side of it. So just take a quick look through all of this, visual inspection, make sure nothing looks out of the ordinary. This MacBook's extremely clean. So now we look at the board. Just look at the board at all angles. You want to get light on the board for yourself, like that. That's what I'm looking at this angle. So if there's any liquid that made it on the board, you're going to see in the reflection, when you see the light like that, you're going to see in the reflection a trail of it on there. So no liquid damage at all. There's the battery cover. Barely any dust on this board. Dust likes piling up in these areas, and dust piling up on your logic board will attract moisture, and it will keep moisture on things and corrode them away. So it's good that this is nice and clean. Like the piles of dust on here just rot away everything over here. I'm still looking for anything burnt. Nothing burnt on it, nothing weird, nothing out of the ordinary. Okay, so we know we don't have PP bus and we don't have PP3v3. First, we should have PP3v3 before we have PP bus. Really, they should be just about the same time. But we don't have PP3v3, so I'm going to go to where PP3v3 is created. So let's go to the schematic. So now I want to find where PP3v3 G3 hot is created. So underscore G3 hot, there it is. Search. Now this is something that I don't remember how I used to do it when I was just learning this. How do you find where a rail is created? It's everywhere here. PP3v3 G3 hot is everywhere that you see, everywhere green here. So now how do we find where it's created? So one of the ways to do that is to search for it in the schematic. So let's go to the schematic. I'm going to Control F, PP3v3 underscore G3H. So now, when you look at something on a schematic like this, this is just a simple little spot on a schematic. This is a simple circuit within this gigantic amount of circuits here. So when you look at a schematic like this, ins, it even says it on this one, anything coming into the circuit is usually on the left side, and anything coming out of the circuit is usually on the right side. Power comes in from the top on chips and stuff like that. This one doesn't really have power going to it. The in is the power. And grounds are always on the bottom. So power, ground, out, in. That's true, holds true for a very large amount of things that you find on the schematic. So this here, we see that PP3v3 G3 hot, that's what we're looking, where is it created? This is coming into here, so it's definitely not created here. Let's go to the next one. This is the one right above it. Still, same thing. It is coming in here. So this isn't creating it. This is using it. Next. So a little bit different that it is coming in from this side, but that's probably just because of space requirements. So it's coming from the left and out. So in. So this is using it. This is still not it. Here's a larger chip. So like I was saying, all the powers coming into the chip to run the chip, control the chip, come in from the top usually. There's going to be other signals and stuff in here too, but the main power usually comes from the top. Signals in or some bidirectionals. There's some signals out here too. The larger chips get a little confusing, so they run out of space. They have to share things, but usually it's ins on the left, outs on the right, and grounds on the bottom. But power and ground is usually pretty well established. All powers are on the top, grounds are on the bottom. So this is a power coming into this. This is not creating this. So next. This is the USB-C controller, still same ones. That's where it's going to the keyboard. That's not where it's coming from. This is, again, on the left, so that's not where it's coming from. It's going to there. This is coming in from the left. Actually, no, that's coming in and turning on things. So, nope, that's not where it's coming from. In, out, ground, it doesn't need power. This is another example. This is a logic gate. You have the in, two ins. You have the power to run the chip, the ground to create the circuit, and the out. So that's powering it. That's not what's coming out. Still pulling up something, not coming out of it. Hall effect sensors for the lid. That's not coming out. That's being powered. That's a block diagram showing you that it's powering data rails. That's just it going on another connector. So this is the process you need to do to figure out where PP3v3 comes from. So now here, we're now on the right side of the page all of a sudden. Everything else has been like in the middle of the page and everything. So now we're on the right side of the page. Come back here. What we got going on here? We got a chip, we got some inputs, we got some outputs, and the output of it, all the way on the output here, PP3v3 G3 hot, we just found out where it's created. So this is the chip, this is the circuit that's creating PP3v3 G3 hot. That's how difficult it can be sometimes to find this stuff. So now we want to find this on the board. I'm going to go to this, I'll say this inductor. That's a nice easy thing to spot on the board. And I'm going to right click on it, and Paul Daniels software is going to bring it right up on the other screen. So this is L9600. This is where the final drive of PP3v3 G3 hot comes from. So now let's find this on the actual board. So I was looking at down here. It was in the cutout again. And that's the big inductor right there. So let's look at this under the microscope. And we'll take a look and see if anything looks weird about this. Why don't we have our 3v3 G3 hot? So there it is under the microscope. Nothing weird about it. It doesn't, nothing's burnt out. Okay, so we have no power on PP3 G3 hot. You need three things for a good power rail. You need the power coming in that you're going to create the power rail from. You need an enable signal to enable the chip to create the power rail. And you need a good path for the power rail to go down to. So the first thing I'm going to check for is the good path for the power rail to go down to. So this is where the power is coming from, this component right here. That's how small we're dealing with. This is actually a larger component. It's my finger next to it. So I'm going to check and make sure that the power rail is not shorted to ground. That something down the power rail isn't keeping it from turning on. So I have my multimeter in ohms mode, in resistance, and I'm going to probe this here. I have 11,000 ohms. 11,000 ohms seems fine. So that this should be fine. The rail should be fine. There's nothing shorted on the rail at 11,000 ohms. So now we need to see if we're if we have voltage coming in. I did not bring a charge port to plug into this. Let me go get a charge port. One moment, please. I am back. So I have a charge port plugged in. Sonny is texting me at the moment with electrical issues. So I have a charge port plugged in. We are going to see if the power to the rail is getting there. So plug in the charger, and we are still taking our 5 volts, 0 amps. So now let's go back to the schematic. So I need to know if the... So I know that over here, that this is good. This path here, PP3, G3 hot, is okay. There's nothing shorted on that. So now I need to see if the power coming in to run this is okay. So we have a couple things to choose from here. BST, LX, out, bias, grounds, reset, N, mode, and sup. So sup is probably supply. So we look over here. This is where the supply is. So we got PPDC and G3 hot or PP bus G3 hot. They go through diodes, so they don't cross-mix each other. They can only power one way. Diode only lets current flow in one direction, so it's only going to allow current from DC in to come this way and not back out to PP bus G3 hot. So DC in is right here, goes through this, and comes to the chip on pin 2. So I'm going to go for D9602, which is right here, and we'll check that right there and see if it has voltage on it. I'm still in ohms mode, so that doesn't work. Change over to voltage. I need a psychic multimeter so it can read my thoughts on what I need it set to. So 5.11 volts. 5.11 volts. What pin was the DC in on? On pin 2. The control chip on pin 2, which is this one right here, that's pin 2, and it goes to this capacitor, so I'm going to check this capacitor. I have 5 volts. So 5 volts is definitely going to the chip itself, but we still have no 3v3 coming out. I have 16 millivolts. Negative 16 millivolts even. So there's nothing on 3v3. There's 5 volts coming into it. So this chip is not creating it. So what was the third thing that I said it needed? So we need power to create it from. It's there. We need a good path for the power to go down. It's there. So now we need an enable. So if we go back to the schematic, we look at this here, which one is enable? So we got BST, LX, out, bias, grounds, reset, N. What is it? PM, N, 3v3, G3 hot R. So power management, enable, 3v3, G3 hot, resisted. So it's gone through a resistor. Over here, power management, enable, 3v3, G3 hot. So this is the signal that we need to enable 3v3. So now we need to see if this is here. So we'll go back to the microscope. 3v3, G3 hot enable is pin 10. So I'm going to click on pin 10. And that is this test point right here. 0. So I have no enable for 3v3. So that's why I don't have 3v3, because it's not being enabled. Well, how do we solve that? So let's go back to the schematic. This is the enable. And we see that it's PM enable 3v3 G3 hot, so we want to get the other side of the resistor. This is it. And where does it come from? We follow that line to U7000. U7000 enables 3v3 G3 hot. So now, this is a common problem. This is a common problem, common fix. Somebody uses a knockoff charger on their MacBook, and this chip dies. And it dies in many different ways. And this is one of the more gentle ways that it dies, is it just stops giving the enable for 3v3 anymore. So this is the U7000 is the main charging chip. It's called the ISL. So MacBooks have, as far as I've worked on them, have always had an ISL. They're made by Intersil. They're the main charging chip and main power chip. So this is the ISL 9239. This is one that we actually can get our hands on, but Intersil refuses to sell to the public. They or even us. They will not sell any of these chips. The 9239 on this older board, somewhat popular, somewhat easy to get. We can find them. The new one, the 9240, which is one number up from this, you can't get anywhere. Some people are starting to sell it. You can see it around. They're quite expensive. Some of them just don't work. They're like factory rejects that people are stealing out of the garbage bins and selling them to us, and they don't want to work. But the 9239 has been reliable, at least. This is one of the chips, one of the reasons why we need a right to repair. This is just a charging chip. There's nothing special about a charging chip and how a charging chip works. It creates the voltages and the charges for running the MacBook. There's no reason to keep this thing secret, keep this thing safe from anybody else using it in their machines or anybody else getting a hold of these for repair or anything. There's probably some weird conspiracy theory reasons why you would need to hide this chip from the public so they can't get it. I don't understand it. But we can't get this thing like from normal vendors. I can't go to Mouser, I can't go to DigiKey, I can't just buy this. So we have to buy it from people in China that steal it out of garbage bins off the ground. You know, they didn't load the reel right, and the reel got screwed up, so they just sell us the ones that could be good, might not be good. But we do have these, so this one little chip is probably what's wrong with this. So we're going to remove this and replace it. So first thing I'm going to do, add a little bit of flux. Let me turn on my fume extractor. So, a bunch of noise coming up. Okay, we'll preheat the whole area, just melt the flux over the chip. That was a little bit too much flux. Came out kind of quick on me today. Get the whole area nice and warm. If you thermal shock these capacitors, they wind up cracking. So we just want to warm up the whole area around it. And then we'll go in right after the chip. I jiggled it a little bit before I pulled it. That's why the balls are all crossed. We'll take the soldering iron. We'll come in here with some fresh leaded solder. Now, this is nice and clean. I don't really need to clean this off, but I need to make the pads flat. So the easiest way to wick is to add leaded solder. So we'll take a little bit of fresh solder, fresh leaded solder, and we'll add it to all the pads. I'll suck up the larger solder balls off of there. And then we'll come back with the wick, and the wick will more easily pull off leaded solder than the lead-free solder. So you have less chance of pulling a pad off the board if you have leaded solder on there. I'm just going to lightly touch it, and I got it soldered onto one of the pads. Lightly touch it. I don't know what pad I'm connected to. See, this is where you get in trouble. Don't just yank it off. Oh, I'm connected to that resistor back there. See that? So if I would just yank that right off, I might pull that resistor off. Nice light touch. Make sure all the pads are nice and flat. They look good. Now we'll take a Q-tip and clean off the burnt flux. So nice and clean, nice and flat. Now we will take a new chip. This tiny package is difficult to open. New chip. Plop it down over there. Now I forget which way this was facing. I didn't pay attention to that at the moment. So we are going to go back to the schematic, or actually the board view, and see which way this is supposed to be facing. So if we go back to U7000, we have one red pin here, that's pin 1 in the bottom right corner. So pin 1 on the chip is going to be marked. Pin 1 is that dot right there, so that's going into the bottom right corner. Now when you do look for that, make sure you have the board in the same direction as the board view. Make sure that everything's lining up correctly. So now we're just going to put a little bit of flux right there. Plop the chip down in the flux. Try to get it centered. Now I'm going to hold it down while I start to heat. Now you can't hold these down till it's melted. So I'm going to hold it down till I start to heat, till some of the flux runs away, so it's not floating. And then I'll take my tweezers away and heat it until it floats into place. You'll see it shift a little bit to the left, I believe. Yep, turned a little bit clockwise. I want to heat it enough to where it's wiggling. I look for two things when I'm heating it done, when I'm heating it back on. I look for it to wiggle while I'm moving the air around, and I look to make sure that the other components around it have melted. You can see that they change a little bit more silvery when they've melted. And then when I take it away, I also ensure that all of these were melted, because you can see the flash point when they go solid again. So as long as all the components around it were melted, I can be pretty sure that everything underneath the chip was melted. Okay, we'll take another Q-tip and clean it up. This will also help cool it down. We don't want to power it up or test anything until it's cool again. These capacitors don't react well to having electricity on them when they are super hot. What's going on in chat? I haven't been paying attention that much. Okay, that's pretty clean. Get some of those fibers out of there. That looks good. So what we use here is a no clean flux. It's Amtech NC559. We got it from store.rossmanngroup.com. And it doesn't need to be cleaned off the board. It doesn't mean you should leave it on the board, but the little bit that you see left underneath the chip and around the capacitors, you don't have to make sure that all of that is gone, because it's not going to do any damage to the board in the long term. There's other rosin fluxes that's made of tree sap and rosin. They will damage components over time, so you have to make sure that those get completely cleaned off. This one does not need to be completely cleaned off, so it's good the way it is right there. So now we have our chip installed. So we should have our 3v3 back, and this should just turn on, hopefully. So let's try plugging it in. I get 5 volts. I'm taking a little bit of amperage. I have 20 volts and 1.31 amps. This is turning on now. So that's it. This has worked. Nice, easy ISL change. Turn off the fume extractor. Okay, let's put this one back together. Turn off my microscope light. All right, so there you go. So we have a 2017 MacBook that used a knockoff charger, and it stopped working on them suddenly. So we opened it up, troubleshot it, found that we don't have PP bus, we don't have 3v3. So first one we go after is 3v3. We find out that we don't have the enable for 3v3. So then the enable comes from the ISL. So in combination with no enable from the ISL and the story of a bad MacBook charger, leads me immediately to the ISL. I will blame that immediately. We change the ISL, and now we have a working MacBook. So now I'm going to go around a little bit over here, just a little bit of the dust that's on here. I'll clean that up some. There's barely anything. This machine is so clean. This machine lives in a good environment. Okay, that looks nice and clean. CPU side usually stays pretty clean. It's the back side that gets dusty. So now we'll grab the case. We'll put it all back together. So now, new video, basically. So I have a disassembled A1707 here, and we're going to put it back together. All the screws are here in a pile, and I'll talk a little bit about how to identify which screw goes where, and how everything gets put back together. And yeah, let's put it back together. So the MacBooks are getting worse and worse with all of these little connectors and wires all over the place. They've got more and more in all the new ones. It's getting insane with the way that especially the 2141 is just bonkers with how many of these little wires you have to try to hold out of the way as you put the board back in. What I like to do is I like to start with one end. So I'm going to down in one end, put that one corner in, and then I have to worry about this one, this one. Now I could start laying it down. So the microphone connector, touch bar, make sure the speaker's out from underneath it, pull the Wi-Fi wires around it. And we'll keep working our way along the board that way. I'll need some tweezers. So we'll pull out the keyboard connector, make sure that's above it, make sure the battery cable is above the battery connector, pull the trackpad cable out, the next speaker. Now we'll work back here. I have the audio plug, the headphone plug, and the fingerprint reader power button. And there you go. Went in, nothing's underneath it. Go back around it one more time. Make sure that nothing's underneath here, that you have other wires and other machines that are coming out here to the board and stuff. So go around everything. Make sure you didn't leave any of the connectors underneath the board. Nope, we didn't. So now we could go ahead and connect some connectors. This one, these are kind of tricky to connect. A lot of people crush them. So you try to line them up directly over the little circle, and then just push it down lightly, and it'll snap. It'll click right into place. It's only a light pressure that's needed. If you have to push harder than that, then it's not lined up. Same with these two, the NovaStack connectors. You kind of like scrub your finger around on it and you'll feel it center itself. Push down. Done. Same with these. They kind of like self-align. There you go. In. In. What's the oldest device you accept for repairs? We usually don't go any under 2012. We will work on the 2011 13-inch for the C9560, C7771 error. We still will fix that. For the 2010 as well, the 2010 15-inch or 17-inch that has the C7771 error, we will fix that. But other than that, we really won't do anything with the 2011, 2010. If you have water damage on a 2011, 2010, we're probably not going to work on it. 2012, yeah, pretty much the cutoff. 2012s are still a decent machine. The 2010, when you're talking about USB 2.0 only on it and everything, they're not very functional. They are a little bit long in the tooth. The 2012 still have a little bit of life left in them, though. So that's all the connectors. Everything's connected. So now we're going to go for the screws. So what I like to do, we don't separate the screws. We don't have screw mats or anything like that. It takes too long when you're in this doing so much. So I have a screw pad here, little magnetic screw pad with all my bits on it and stuff. Here's all the hold downs. There's my ISL I got from store.rossmanngroup.com. And I'll take all of my screws from my magnet here, and I'll just spread them out all on the magnetic pad here, so I can identify them and sort them as I go. So the first two screws you want to connect are the T8, so I have my T8 in here, and I'm going to look for the two T8 screws. They have these extra little shoulders on them. They're weird-looking screws. They have the extra little shoulders. One of them is going to have a screw hole right down the head, right where you put your screwdriver. There's going to be a screw hole. That one goes over there. This one does not have a screw hole. That one goes over here on the heatsink. And I do these first because they have an extra shoulder on them. I don't know if I could zoom in a little. They have this extra shoulder on it that kind of goes into the hole and locates the board a little bit. It will push the board a little bit and make sure it's centered. So that's why those are the first two that I like to put in. So they go at the corners of the heatsink. That's the only two T8s, so we'll get rid of the T8. And we will switch to our T5 tip. So now I'll start pulling out all the T5s. So I'll come over here and sort through. The T5s are easy to spot among all of the screws. I think that's all of them. So now when we were taking it apart, we talked about there's only one long screw of these. That all the screws are the same except for one. This one is longer than all the others, and that goes right here in this wing up against the edge. Everything else is exactly the same. And you just go around and install all them. Okay, now there's two. That's it for the. Well, actually, there's one more T5. I'll put the battery screw in now. That's the last T5. Oh, considerations when putting the battery connector back on. Sometimes so the battery connector is this little flap, and it has two contacts on the flap and two contacts on the battery. Two contacts on the battery, two contacts on the flap. I've seen these be so misaligned or seen them be dirty that there's no contact on here. So always look in here, make sure there's no dust, make sure there's no piece of junk in here. And when you flap it back over, see, we're a little bit far over this way. So I'm going to try to bend this a little bit and push it in. Be very gentle with it because you can slip and rip the whole thing off. And I want to center it as much as I can. So see, now I have it centered as much as I can. So now we're done with T5. We'll switch to our T3 tip. And the first two I'm going to look for on here is there's really large T3 screws. Those two go to the board. They hold the board down. So we have two rather large for T3 screws. And one is going to go here. This holds the board to the case. And one is going to go here. Now there's a couple other recognizable ones. So the next recognizable set of screws is the silver ones. These silver screws are for the charge port. They're silver. They're kind of gunmetal. Gray almost. They're not black like the rest of them. That's for the charge port hold downs and this one touch bar cable hold down that's up against the end here. So we'll get the cap too for the touch bar. Now this clips around the edge of the board and then lays down on top of the touch bar. And it takes one of the same little silver screws that the charge ports take. So they're the next easiest to spot in the mix, so I pull them out. Yeah, I don't like that battery connector either. There was a donation, but I don't see it. How long ago was it? I had a Paul Daniels Oh Sweet Mercy, but I don't see the donation. If there was a donation, I'm sorry. I don't see it. Is it because it's top chat, not live chat? Oh, I'm sorry. I don't see your donation. Okay, the next one is that there are two rather larger, these are kind of difficult to spot. So what I do is I take these screws here and I put them on my magnet all facing up. And you're going to spot, there they are right there, one small one and one larger one. You're going to spot that one of them, they look exactly identical, but one of them is taller than the other. So most of them are the short one. You're only going to have two of those tall ones, and they go for the power button hold down over here. So these need a little bit longer screws because it's a screw that's going into a screw. So that this screw has a screw hole in the middle of it. It's threaded. So I'll take that cap there. That's the cap for that. And I'll take that long one, and that goes down this screw here. And then let's find the other one. And Sunny just blew up my phone. I can't pick out the other one immediately, so I'm just going to start putting them all on my magnet here to try to find that last one. Then the other ones that are somewhat recognizable are these little ones. They're really small, but they have a domed head to them. Those are for the plastic hinge covers that go on here. They have a little dome top to them. They're not just completely flat on the top. So those are easy to pick out. And you don't want to put the other one in until you have at least that screw in. So that's why that's the first screw I put in, because now I can put this down. It kind of interferes with it. You can always get it around it, but I'd rather not mar up anything, because you do wind up chewing up a little bit in there just trying to screw it in. Ah, I found the long one. It was standing up at me. That's why I couldn't recognize it right away. So the other long one goes there. And now we have really long ones for here, really tiny ones for here, and then all the rest are right there on my magnet. They're all identical. So let's get the really tiny ones in first. Grab the LCD hold down. Put that on there, hold it in place, and we'll get one of these tiny screws in here. Oh, thank you, Joe, for your $1.99. So that donation showed up. So now, it is somewhat important, as somebody's talking about the right screws in a Nintendo Switch, it is somewhat important to find the right screw for these. You can mix up some of them. These super long screws can go over here and they're not going to harm anything, but if I take one of these super long screws and screw this down with it, you're damaging the board. If I take one of these tiny screws and try to screw that in, it'll never go in there. It'll never actually reach the screw hole. So you'll wind up trying to put it somewhere else. If I take one of these two T3 screws that are right here, this one and this one, if I try to put that in any one of these hold downs, it will destroy the board. And depending on which hold down you went in, it may render the board unfixable. So it's always important to put the right screws in the right spot. Sometimes it's not critical, but it can be. So just do it all the time. There's no point in ever slacking off on it. Do it all the time, because you don't know all the devices when it's going to be one of those critical errors. Okay, the rest of the hold downs, I'll just pop them all on. There's no power on the board, so I don't have to worry about them falling anywhere. And I got the rest of my screws on my magnet. You can do without some screws. Yes and no. I will agree to disagree on that. Because yes, this machine will probably survive. If I don't put these connectors back on here, if I don't put these connector caps, if I throw that away, just screw it, it's not there, it will probably be fine. This connector will probably never come off of here. If you drop it, it's in the heat, it's in the cold, doesn't matter. This connector will probably never come off of there. But that is not right. That it was made like that, it came to your shop like that, these pieces were in the machine, and then you give it back to the customer without those pieces. I believe that that's akin to theft. You want to argue me and call me old about it or something like that, I don't care. That is theft. You are stealing those pieces. I don't care if you actually took them out and put them in somebody else's machine, that's outright, complete and total stealing. But if you just left this on your desk and didn't give it back to them, it's not professional and it's akin to theft. So there, everything's connected. Everything's safe, good. I'm going to connect the battery. Going to put the battery cover on. And we are going to load up a test OS and make sure this is working. Plug in my test OS. Plug in the power, and I will hold down Option. So I have a blue light on my on and off. I did have a blue light on my drive. I have a blue light on my drive. I have fan spin. I have chime. And there you go. We have a boot screen. I'm going to load my test OS. So this is an old enough machine that we can just load our test OS into it. All of the new machines, anything with a T2 chip, it's by default, it's we cannot load load an external OS for security reasons. So to test it, to do what I'm doing now, if for any of the newer machines, we're going to need your login password. So I can't verify that the keyboard works, I can't verify that the sound works, and the Wi-Fi and stuff like that. I can't verify that you're actually getting everything working unless we log into the computer and check everything out. So before, I could just do this, no problem. If you have your drive encrypted, I can't see anything on your drive. There's no security concerns with it at all. I can delete your computer, but it's not really a security concern. Now, just in case their name comes up, I will mute this for a second. I don't want the customer's name to show up in the thing asking me for a password. Okay, no extra login. So there's a working MacBook. So now let's go through some tests. I opened these three things for test. So we have the FirmArk GPU test, I have coconut battery, and I make sure that the FaceTime camera works. So there's the FaceTime camera. It is working. That is good. Coconut battery takes a little while to open. So we have 0% battery here. You can't really read that. That's very difficult to read. The battery's not in great condition. So I will let the customer know this on my email going out to them when we're done, that the battery is 69%, it's in check status, so they may want a new battery. It doesn't need to be changed. This will still work from battery because it is charging. As long as it comes up a couple percentage, then we know it's charging. It is taking 46 watts charging. But if they use this from battery a lot, it would be good to change the battery. So I can, but I can't run FirmArk with a dead battery. Running FirmArk uses a lot of system resources, and it will try to pull some amperage from the battery as well. So we don't have anything to pull from the battery because we're 0%. So I can't run FirmArk until I have, I usually wait till I have 5% on it. I didn't even shut off because it's just trying to process with a dead battery. Your machine does really weird things when the battery's dead. It just went to sleep because the battery's dead. Now we're down to 66. 66.8. This battery is not in good condition at all. And we can also check that. Go to the sensors here. And PP bus is 12.17. So that's a charging PP bus. So hopefully that slowly goes up. So we got 12.17, and that should slowly be going up. So how's everybody doing? I know this is like watching a battery charge. Do you really wish you had a MacBook? Is MacBook really that much better for audio? Like, is not everything available for PC anyway? Like, there's only one piece of software that's exclusive to Mac, but everything else, I have some stuff on my PC that works just as good, I would think. The name of the sensor software is iStat Menus. It's a really good software. I want a new Samsung Galaxy Note with headphone jack and expandable storage. Yes, please. I have a Note 9 that I use, and I would really like to get a new phone. And as soon as Samsung comes out with a new flagship phone that has, I can do without a headphone jack. I would like to have one. I can do without it, but I need a SD card slot because I don't trust all of my stuff on the internal phone memory. Do we fix GPUs? That's a up-in-the-air question. Yes and no. If you were doing something like trying to water cool your GPU and you knocked off something off your GPU, but you did not crush it or destroy it, then yes, we will take a look at it. We may be able to connect it on and be fine. If you were mining with your GPU or you bought a used GPU and it stopped and it's not working anymore, no, there is nothing we could do about your GPU. If you have a liquid damaged GPU, no. No. 1.6%, yay. The phone market right now really sucks because of the providers. All of a sudden, the providers decided to turn off a bunch of transmission bands and just made a bunch of phones useless. Like, I don't know if it's true, but I thought I saw on the list that Sprint turned off 4G. They only have 5G service? Like, that's ridiculous. It's only the phones from last year that have 5G. If you have a phone older than 1 year, you're done on Sprint. But does Sprint even have service anymore? I thought they merged with T-Mobile. I don't know. I haven't kept up on it. Yes, everybody, we're just chatting and waiting for a battery to charge. I need at least 5% on that battery so that we can run FirmArc. Actually, no, we could do something else. I don't need battery to test the keyboard. So we will go to keyboardtester.com, which is freaking awesome. This tests 3 things all in once. So it's testing. It'll test the keyboard as I go across. It's also testing internet because we will either see an ad here or to be able to get the sound, I need to have internet. And it's going to test the sound to see if I have sound, and it sounds somewhat okay. If you suspect any sound issues, you really should play some music, but this is good enough. Nice little click sound. So now I know I have sound. I know I have internet, because the sound only shows up here if you have internet. This is an internet archive of the website, so it's always here. But the only way you get the sound is if you have internet. And then we will even test the touch bar with this. So I will go to function, and now I could go across the touch bar, and you'll see all the keys, except F11. F11 is a special key that minimizes or moves out of the way. I don't know what you call that. So that won't show up, but we know it works. There you go. Keyboard works. So no spills on the keyboard or anything. Sound works. Internet works. You can click on Bluetooth. Bluetooth is on, and it's seeing some devices, so we're good. And we have 6% battery, so this battery is really bad the way it's going down, so Furmark may turn off the machine. Now, that's usually a sign of something wrong. If I run this benchmark and the machine turns off, that's usually a sign of something wrong. But I am aware that the battery is crappy, we have a low charge, so when I run Furmark, if this thing just goes to sleep right away, it's probably normal just because of the bad battery. So we initialize the GPU, and now we are running on the GPU, and everything seems fine there. So now here I'm going to watch the thermals. I'm going to make sure that the fans respond. So we're at 2100 and 2000. I'm going to make sure the fans go up. I'm going to watch the thermals here. I watch my powers, make sure nothing looks really weird out of the powers. It's not getting that hot. We're running at 45 frames per second on the fuzzy donut. And thermals are slowly climbing up. It's kind of cool in here. But let's just run stress test. I'm just going to let it run until I see the fans creep up. I want to see the fans respond to everything. I want to make sure that I'll also touch the heatsink at the end of the fans. Make sure that the heatsink is transmitting heat, because you will get these heatsinks die, and you won't feel any warmth. Like this is hot to touch. I could barely touch this. It feels like it's going to burn my skin. I don't mind the touch bar. Like, people really hated the touch bar. I don't mind the touch bar, but I would like a set of function keys and then the touch bar. I don't want them replacing my function keys. I want them above my function keys, because I actually do use it from time to time. It's interesting. There's one feature that caught me on it. If you go to YouTube and you get an ad, you get one of those 15 or 20 second ads that you can't skip, the touch bar lets you fast forward through the ad. Don't tell anybody. It's a secret hack. They'll patch it if you tell anybody. But that's only on Safari on macOS. Really, the question is, aren't touch bars like insta-kill for spills, though? Not really. The whole machine is an insta-kill for spills. The touch bar is just, it's average. It is in a bad location all the way here in the corner like that. It is in a spot where it will get wet quite often, but usually no. It's these corners up here that have the SSD, that's usually insta-kill. It's the soldered on SSD, like you saw in the last video I did. That's the insta-kill for these things. Touch bars are we can salvage touch bars. We can replace touch bars. Okay, fans are turning up, 4,000 on both. Thermals are staying within a good range. Fans are responding. Yeah, this MacBook seems in good condition. That's the most, unless you did some extensive work or something like that, that's the most burn-in test. You don't need to let this thing run for 5 hours or 24 hours or something like that. I see some people posting about that. I don't see any reason for that whatsoever. Depends on how much work you did in it, obviously, though. Like this little bit of work that we did in it, we're charging a dead battery, charging a battery from flat. So we're working on, we worked on the charging chip, and we just ran a heavy program, and we charged the battery from flat. Yeah, it's not happy with that battery. I bet we turned, so it went to sleep because of that battery. Yeah, it's still powered. I bet you this battery says way less than 66 now. 58. See? It did have 10%, but now it's 0% and 58% life. So this is the charge. You can't read that, can you? Yeah, it's kind of difficult. This is the charge. This is how much charge the battery has, and this is how much potential charge that the battery can hold anymore. So it was 66%. When we first turned it on, it was 69, and then it went to sleep and came back, and then it was 66, and now it just went to sleep and came back, and suddenly we went from 10% to 0% and 58% battery life. So yeah, this battery, again, it doesn't have to be changed. We're not trying to sell a customer on putting more money into an older machine or anything. It doesn't have to be changed. If you use it mostly as a desktop, you probably get away with this for a couple more years. But yeah, if you ever take this off the charger and put this on your lap, this is not going to work out well. You really should change the battery. And we'll give the customer that option. Now, there's two levels of dead battery. This is the, you can still survive with a dead battery, and there's the, if I plug in this battery, the machine will not turn on anymore. Dead battery. This is the easier one. This machine is not so old. This machine is not so old. It's the manufacture date of the battery is 2016, October 29th of 2016. It only has 100 charge cycles on it. But the life is down to 58%. It's probably lower than this. You know, every time we try to run it off battery, it's going to figure out that it has less and less and less. This is a 2017 MacBook 15-inch, MacBook Pro 15-inch, model number A1707. Yeah, it's hit or miss on the batteries. Apple batteries are usually really good. We see a lot of batteries that are many years old and they still have really good good life to them. But it's really hit or miss. You know, the guy running the machine making this battery that day could have, you know, dialed a dial a little bit too much in one direction, and it didn't pack the cells quite as tight as it's supposed to, and now it doesn't. It's not as good. It's not going to last as good as the other ones. But now, generally, Apple batteries are pretty good. Yeah, my laptop sits there on my desk plugged in all the time. I've used it off a battery maybe a handful of times at absolute most. But from brand new, it didn't last on battery. I have a giant Dell gaming PC, and it's not meant to be run off a battery. Well, I will contact the customer about their battery. Hopefully they will change it so that they will be happy with our repair. I'm sure they will be happy with the repair since it's actually working, but we want them to be happy with their MacBook again. So something that a lot of people talk about when repairing stuff, this industry kind of sucks with repairing because you're paying a bunch of money to get back the same thing that you just had. So I just had this. It was just working fine. And now I'm going to pay you a bunch of money to get back the same thing working fine. It's kind of a crappy feeling. Like, yeah, you're happy that you got it back and it's working again, but it's just the same damn thing. That's why a lot of people do opt to upgrade rather than repair. They'd rather buy something new. But if you change this battery in here, that will be a good customer service thing. That will be when they get it back and now all of a sudden they can sit there and watch a full 2-hour movie on battery and it's still not dead. That will be something that you're like, wow, yeah, I'm glad I got this thing repaired. Now, the last thing we're going to do, unplug that, unplug my test OS, and we're going to put the back plate back on. So, first thing I want to do here is I'm going to take some blue juice, and we're going to spray it on here, away from the machine. Okay, got some Windex, not affiliated with SC Johnson Wax. We're going to wipe up all the dust that's on here. You don't want to wipe away these foam pieces. These are little foam pieces. Be careful around them. Don't let these clips, these are the clips that are holding it in. This is little metal ones. These are little plastic ones that clip into metal ones inside. You don't want them to rip your finger open. These are the fingers that we had to pull away from to get it open. So nice and clean. I will shake it a couple times, make sure it's dry. If you wipe away the foam pads, you can have the speakers vibrate. They go up against the speakers from the back case. It's possible that, I doubt it would happen because the speakers are glued in here, but it could make the speakers vibrate if you wipe away these foam pads. So now we're going to put it in right there, a little bit away from the back, and get it centered on both sides. And then we're going to push down here and back from the top. And that'll slide those fingers in. That'll engage those fingers into here. Then we pop, pop. There we go. Closed. Now we'll change to our pentalobe 5, pentalobe 4, depending on manufacturer. We'll take the long screws first in the back corners. Oh, somebody asked earlier, I hope you're still here, what screwdriver am I using? This is the WowStick 1F. I love this thing. Not sponsored by them. A customer, or not a customer, a fan of ours sent one of these to us to try out, and I loved it since the first time I got my hands on it. So we have like 6 of them in the shop now. Especially for doing keyboards where you have to put in 100 different screws. Actually, like literally 100 screws hold in some of these keyboards. And you have to sit here with 100 screws across the whole thing. This thing's a lifesaver. It's a wrist saver. I like it. Some people say it's not powerful enough for like PlayStations or stuff like that, but MacBooks, it pulls out every screw perfectly.
You're still streaming. I take it this board sucks.
Nope. Completely fixed.
Come on, working period?
Completely fixed.
You never
I went through the whole thing.
Why don't you have a sticker on the bottom that docks the customer like an L does?
No. No.
I saw the bottom of the MacBook as I walked in and I thought, oh.
No, come on. You know who you're dealing with.
Did you see
Yeah, we went through the whole thing from intake, how you contact us, all the way to it is done, it still needs a battery, and I will be contacting the customer letting them know it needs a battery.
Did you see my comment when you were tweaking the chip? And I
No, I completely ignored it. I did not see the comment.
Oh.
It did not happen. Stop it.
Fixed.
Fixed working.
So somebody asked that one wheel company, what are the bolt sizes for the GT? Torx, poles 55, 45, or hub. What about rest? We cannot share this information. Let us know when the board is on its way to us. They can't share the information on a bolt size.
They can't share the information on a fastener size. Something that I can just go experiment with a bunch of different screwdrivers and find out what it is. They won't tell you what it is.
Yeah, the guy said, he posted it and said, I'm fucking done with Future Motion and will never give them a dime again. And I suggest you all do the same. I'm waiting until the company that actually gives a fuck comes out.
Anybody out there can manufacture something like a one wheel, you have an audience.
A lot of patents, not until 2035.
Well, if you can figure out how to do it where it's a different shape wheel, a different shape board, there's ways to make something that looks like it but doesn't infringe on patents.
Recreate the wheel. Reinvent the wheel.
Yes, reinvent the one wheel. Somebody reinvent the one wheel so it doesn't infringe on patents. Because this company sucks.
Paul, what's your YouTube channel? Let's plug your YouTube channel.
My YouTube channel is hard to find.
Where are people going to find your Camaro repair live stream?
Paul's
going to be live streaming fixing his Camaro.
Yeah, I have I have a 94 Z28, my motor seized. That's going to be some repair. You can find my channel if you look for the Microsoft Band, the old smartwatch. Look for Microsoft Band 2 Teardown, and you'll find that I'm one of the only crazy fucks out there that actually did that. So yeah, you'll find me pretty quickly by looking for that. Other than that, I need to register a username so it's easier to find me.
How many of you out there would watch Paul live streaming fixing his Camaro with a seized motor? Raise your hand if you'd watch this.
It's gonna be some fix.
Let's see. I bet people.
I think it's in the valve train. I'm not sure yet. I haven't taken it apart. I think it's in the valve train.
The camera angle is perfect to make it look like I'm completely bald.
Yes, Microsoft made a smartwatch and it was fucking awesome. It really kicked ass. It had everything in it possible. It really kicked ass. You should go take a look at some of the old reviews of the Microsoft Band, the 2. The 1 was just an experiment. The 2 is where they got it right.
Here we go. You're on your... Hair of the Dog found your channel and posted it. Everybody here wants to see a Camaro repair. The journey to 2 million subscribers begins with a single step. There's only one person that said they wouldn't be interested, but they're chubby, so I don't care. Chubby mom.
Now, the next couple streams, I want to do some videos and streams on my photography stuff. I have a very nice darkroom set up at home, and I want to do some photography streams.
Hope you didn't spin a bearing.
Hopefully not. I really hope it's not a spun bearing. I did have a tick in the valve train on the passenger side, so I'm hoping it's just a stuck lifter or something like that.
I don't have a mic, Foxabillo. It's at home. It's in my backpack. I don't have a second mic.
No, I never got a Samsung Gear. This is the Samsung Fit. Nice cheap one. I've been happy with this little guy. It's just enough. It gives you your notifications and everything. It's unobtrusive. It's small. I like it. It keeps track of everything. Keeps track of your heart rate. Keeps track of your steps. Yeah, as soon as you look at it, I know it's 55 degrees out. I like that. And this was cheap. It was like $50 or something like that. Yeah, win-win. DaVinci Resolve dongle? It's on the back of this computer, I think. Or did he lose that? Is that why you're asking? It should be on the back of this computer. I hope it's on the back of this computer. Looks too bulky? That's what I don't like about the Gear, is that it's this giant, it's a giant watch face thing that's like this big. This is just a silicone band. And I already broke the band once. The bands are really easy to get. And it's just a little watch thing that's in a silicone band. I like it. Although I have larger wrists, so I have 3 more spaces to go, and I can't fit it anymore. So I guess on a smaller person it would look bulky. But then, yeah, where do you find a smartwatch that isn't smaller than this? I haven't seen many. A rotary swap the Camaro? No, I'm not an import dude. If it is a spun bearing, I will be doing an LT4 conversion on the whole motor then. No, not for this guy. They don't have titanium. It's just the silicone, and you get whatever color you want. Who's that behind me? That's Mr. Clinton. Oh, yeah. Say hi to Mr. Clinton. Mr. Clinton! Aw, you're so cute. No, it's a LT1 motor. It's a Chevy 350 small block. Hi. How are you? Say something to your adoring fans, Mr. Clinton. That's one lazy cat. Swap it for a big block? No, I like my fender wells. I've seen the swaps for a big block in a 94 Z28. It does not look easy. No way. I don't want to do that much. It's just a daily driver. I was thinking about doing an LS swap. Yeah. But I kind of want to do... I want to keep it numbers matching. It is numbers matching. It's in good condition. I want to keep it a numbers matching car. Like the LT4 conversion is just new pistons, new... I think you have to blueprint and stroke out the motor a little bit, but it's a new intake and fuel injectors and all that. So it's like you can still be numbers matching with an LT4 conversion. I haven't seen anything out of Chem Block in a while. I would love it if it's just a bent push rod. I really hope it's not a spun bearing. Any advice for firing up a car that's been idle for months? Put a drain on the fuel line. Just turn it on a couple times. Get some fresh fuel all the way up to the injectors. I mean, a few months is not a problem. Mine was sitting for about a year, and then I went to start it, and it wouldn't turn. It turned like maybe 50 degrees and then locked up. Well, thanks for joining me. Oh, a wild Anel has appeared. Everybody say hi to Anel. Hi, Anel.
I want to say hi to Clinton. He's enjoying some water.
Clinton is thirsty. Clinton is a really big cat. If you guys ever see him, he's a really big cat.
How big is he?
He's that big. Look at that. He's almost the size of an Anel. He's the size of an Anel's body.
3 feet.
No, he doesn't like being held. Okay.
Goodbye,
Have a good day, everybody. Thanks for joining me.